This talk is going to be a bit different. I hope you find it refreshing and interesting. So let's get to it. Nice to meet you. I'm Michael, working as a data scientist at AppsFlyer for a year now. I have overall 5 years of experience delivering machine learning products to production as a data scientist and as a team leader. Seeing my machine learning algorithms make an impact is something that I find very pleasing, and this is going to be the focus of my talk today. Before we begin, let's start with a highly incorrect quote. As Mahatma Gandhi, one of the godfathers of machine learning, said, 90% of the machine learning projects fail. And from my point of view, I see three main verticals of failures. So the first vertical is algorithmic. This is actually what 95% of the courses we take, the papers we read, the meetups we attend are all about. It's about the data and how to get more of it. It's about different architectures, parameters, feature vectors, embeddings, transformations, attentions, and on and on and on and on. So this is the first vertical we can fail in. The second one is more R&D related. Actually, many of those things are being discussed today. It refers to things like the programming languages our pipeline was written in and whether or not it fits how R&D works today. It can be monitoring infrastructure or the lack of it, latency requirements from the R&D, versioning, APIs, etc. Yet again, very important vertical. However, I argue that besides these two very important verticals, there is a third factor that we tend to neglect, the human factor, and that factor may have a great influence on our machine learning product chances to succeed in production. I hope you guessed it. I relate to the interface between us, the data scientists, with our non-technical stakeholders. Okay, so now I have stated my case. Let's talk about the personas. I would like to emphasize that these are decision makers in your company that can determine your model success. So let's start. We have senior management. It can be VP sales, VP product, CEO, and more. Many of them just need the bottom line and quiet from their environment. If your model is attracting too much noise inside your company, it's a problem for them because they are the one who usually deal with noise. We have CSMs, which is customer success managers, and they are the ones managing the client and its different needs. They also deal with issues when they arise. These are the people you should invest a lot of your time in as they are the face of your product. And we have the product manager, which is the main interface for the development stage. They control a lot of the resources in the R&D, including ones that you might need, like data engineer and DevOps. They also have a great effect whether or not your development will get to production or not. Cool. We stated our problem. We talked about our relevant personas in the organization. Now let's use our imagination. Let's imagine we have a bucket that represents the benefit that your stakeholders believe that they will gain from your machine learning-based product. And the benefit can be comprised of how good they think the model is at predicting the task at hand, how easy it is for them to get clear and actionable feedback on issues that arise, and they will arise, how predictable are the data science development efforts in a matter of time to production, and how much aligned are the different stakeholders on what are the benefits of actually using your model. So we have a bucket now. We're going to take a look at what's draining our bucket and how can we fill it back up. And we're going to have a little summary because why not? First item on the list, lack of actionable insights. Let's start with the bad news. Even if many of your customers will get accurate results, the bad outcomes have a huge impact on how your product is perceived. And that's why when issues arise, a good CSM will try to use all of the tools in its possession to address it. The problem is that it's not always that easy to provide and make an external use of such tools for machine learning. And it might leave the CSM with nothing to work with besides that's just how the model works. And in case they are dealing with customers, this leaves the CSM powerless in front of them, which is probably the worst thing that can happen at that point in time. Second issue we're going to talk about is the telephone game. We all remember that game when we were children, where you form a chain and the first person in it thinks of a word, says it to the next in line, while trying to preserve the original meaning. This almost never works, and it's relevant here as well. Even if you provide proper communication with your stakeholders, describing all of the benefits and weaknesses of your models clearly, you cannot control the flow of information. And a reasonable flow might be something like data science to product to the customer success management, and so on to the external customer. And by nature, each element in the flow will alter the information just a bit, which may cause your initial communication to be misinterpreted. Again, this is not something that is good for you. Next thing we're going to talk about is the fact that we do not like ETAs. And we actually have good reason why that's the case. It's because we are not able, as data scientists, to promise results such as accuracy, F1, regression metrics on a certain time frame. And although today modern product organizations understand this well, it still disrupts their ability to plan ahead. And in time, and moreover, if the project requires further research, the lack of clarity on when things will be ready and what was done till now will make you the weak spot of the development effort. Yet again, something we would like to avoid. The last point I'm going to relate to is poor response to issues. And issues raised by customers and internal stakeholders are an integral part of a machine learning product working with many clients in production. That's just the way it is. And a common misconception states that in order to have quality response, the data science team needs to be extremely responsive. That's actually the other way around. In the long term, basing our customer support on the data science team availability is not a good practice at all. It will lead to slow response time and to slowdowns in developing new initiatives and new products. So we were able to drain our bucket around in half. What we're going to do right now is go through actions I believe can fill this bucket back up. So let's start with the first issue, lack of actionable insights. And we want to give the CSM something to do. As discussed, when an issue with the model arises, a good CSM will proactively try to drive for a solution. And we need to make sure that we provide actionable insights on what can be done in order to improve the situation based on real data. Besides some of the great ideas that were presented, including the deep check solution presented before me, a good and simple idea might be just to sit down with the CSMs and with product, define all of the dimensions that they think will allow them to help their customers and analyze them. Try to focus on actionable dimensions. It can be brightness or resolution if you are dealing with computer vision. It can be the sound quality if you are dealing with voice recognition. And it can be adding and implementing more events if we are dealing with users' lifetime value prediction. And by bringing back some of the power to the CSM, oops, 1 second, I'll mute you, okay. And by bringing back the power to the CSM, you can elevate the CSM and its relationship with the client. Next item on the list, control the flow of information. And although you cannot control the flow of information between the different stakeholders, you can help them pass the information that you want. By preparing some training materials and frequently asked question pages, you can help the information to pass as you intended. Make sure you adjust your materials in accordance with the level of expected knowledge, interest, and time of your stakeholders. Important thing to note, you don't need to prepare all of the materials yourself. If you have a technical writer, a product marketing manager, people responsible for just clear communication in your organization, try to use them and just supervise the outcome. Okay, about the ETAs, commit on what you will do and not on model performance. So what I recommend on doing is just, instead of promising results, detail the problem at hand, detail the approaches you want to take and examine, and an ETA on how much time it will just take you to examine them. And once you have good enough results, they can be either good or bad, present it to product alongside the comprehensible results and next steps. And that way, even if your project does not converge that easily, your stakeholders will trust you and the process as you provide transparency and clarity. Last item on the list, deploy a first line of defense. This is regarding poor responses to issues. So with time, many of the issues that will be raised by your customers will repeat themselves. And in addition, if your company is dealing with many customers, you probably have a solution engineer, which is responsible for different technical aspects of the customer. And therefore, it is highly recommended to use them as the first line of defense, which will save you time and hassle and will probably yield a better response as they deal with customer more frequently than you do. However, you need to make sure they are equipped. They need to have easy access to all of the predictions that were made, the models, the features, and relevant artifacts. You need to reply these engineers fast and make sure they have what they need in order to respond to the customer. You can prepare a cookbook of common scenarios and how to deal with them, which can also save you some time, and ongoing training on the new models you develop, new features, issues that you found by yourself, know-hows, etc. Cool. So you might not agree with everything I have to say, and that's cool. There are many different use cases. I personally encountered just a small fraction of them, and there are probably cases where my advices are not relevant. However, I urge you not to forget about the human factor. Behind every model or product, there are people using it. And having this state of mind will increase dramatically your machine learning product chances to succeed in production. Thank you very much.